Two cities, two countries, one question. When the sun goes down in Southeast Asia, which city truly comes alive? Siem Reap, a Cambodian town built around the most famous ruins in the world, a place most people visit for 2 days, see Angkor Wat, and leave. Saigon, 9 million people, motorbikes, energy, a city that turns electric after dark. I spent serious time in both. I walked the streets after midnight. I sat on plastic stools. I watched what happens when the lights come on and the rules fade. And what I found surprised me, because Siem Reap is not what most people expect after dark. And Saigon is not just loud streets and cheap beer. It is something harder to define and harder to leave. This is not about which city is better. This is about what each city offers when darkness falls. And by the end, you will know exactly which one fits your soul. Before we begin, let me be clear. This video is about observation, not judgment. Let's go. Why these cities matter. Siem Reap and Saigon sit in neighboring countries, 3 hours by bus across the border. But when night falls, they become completely different worlds. Siem Reap is a small city, fewer than 300,000 people, that exists almost entirely because of Angkor Wat. Before the temples were rediscovered by Western travelers in the 1990s, Siem Reap was a quiet provincial town. The tourism industry built itself around the ruins. The nightlife built itself around the tourism industry. Saigon, officially Ho Chi Minh City, is Vietnam's economic capital. 9 million people, a city that survived war, reunification, and decades of isolation, and came out the other side with something that feels like uncontainable energy. Both cities attract hundreds of thousands of visitors every year. Both promise unforgettable nights. But the experience could not be more different. In Siem Reap, nightlife was designed for tourists, built for them, priced for them, organized around what they expect. In Saigon, nightlife exists because the city cannot help itself. It happens whether tourists are there or not. That difference shapes everything. The street, where the energy lives. Let's start where both cities start. On the street. Siem Reap's nightlife is concentrated on Pub Street, one road, maybe 200 meters long. Neon signs, open-fronted bars, music competing from every direction. Tuk-tuk drivers lining the entrance, offering everything from transport to tours to things better left unspecified. Pub Street works. It is lively, accessible, and genuinely fun for a first night out. The bars are welcoming. The drinks are cheap by any standard. The crowd is international, travelers from every continent mixing freely in a compact space that makes conversation easy. But Pub Street has a problem that becomes visible by the second night. It is all there is. Walk 2 streets away from Pub Street in Siem Reap and the city goes quiet. Locals are home. The markets are closed. The energy does not extend beyond that single tourist corridor. Siem Reap, after midnight, is a city that is finished for the day. The tuk-tuks wait for the last bar to close. The street food vendors pack up. By 1 in the morning, most of Pub Street itself is winding down. Saigon is the opposite. Boe Street is Saigon's Pub Street equivalent. And yes, it has the same neon signs, the same competing music, the same tuk-tuk offers at the entrance. But calling Boe the whole of Saigon's nightlife misses the point entirely. Walk away from Boe in any direction and the city is still alive. Plastic stools on every corner, local beer being poured into glasses with ice, street food vendors cooking over flame, motorbikes moving in every direction, the sound of a city that has no intention of sleeping. At 2 in the morning, in Saigon, people are still arriving. The energy does not peak and decline. It shifts and continues. The city absorbs you into its rhythm and simply does not release you. Siem Reap has a street. Saigon has a city, the club scene, where the music plays. If clubs are your priority, both cities have options, but they are very different. Siem Reap's clubs are small and tourist-oriented. Temple Club near Pub Street has multiple floors, decent sound, and a crowd that is almost entirely foreign. Angkor Wat, a bar that has been operating since the 90s, is the closest thing to a legendary venue the city has. It is fun, irreverent, and famous among backpackers for a reason. The music is international. The crowd is young, The energy is good for what it is, but the venues are small, the production quality is basic, and by 2 in the morning, most of them are emptying out. Saigon's club scene is in a different category. Lush, Envy, The Observatory, Apocalypse Now, a club that has been running for 30 years and still pulls serious crowds. These are venues with real sound systems, real DJs, and a mix of Vietnamese locals and international visitors that creates something more organic than a purely tourist crowd. The Vietnamese people who go out in Saigon go out seriously. They dress up, they stay late, they bring energy that does not exist when a venue is populated exclusively by travelers passing through on their way to the next destination. That local presence changes everything about how a club night feels. In Siem Reap's clubs, everyone is a tourist. The shared experience is novelty. We are all here, we are all far from home. Let's make the most of it. In Saigon's clubs, you are a guest in someone else's city. The locals are not performing for you, they are just living. And that distinction between being performed for and being included produces a fundamentally different kind of night. Prices. What your money gets you. Let's talk money, because nightlife costs very differently in each city. Siem Reap is cheap, genuinely cheap, even by Southeast Asian standards. A draft Angkor beer on Pub Street costs 50 cents to $1. A cocktail runs $2 to $4. Street food from the vendors near the night market, grilled meat, fresh spring rolls, fried rice, costs under $2 for a full plate. A full night out in Siem Reap, drinks, food, a club entry if you choose, rarely exceeds $20 to $25 per person, even if you are not watching the budget. This is partly why Siem Reap attracts the backpacker crowd it does. The combination of extraordinary daytime attractions, Angkor Wat is genuinely one of the most spectacular sights in the world, and extremely affordable nightlife makes it a compelling stop. Saigon is slightly more expensive than Siem Reap, but only slightly. A local Saigon beer or 333 on Boy Street costs 50 cents to $1.50. Cocktails in tourist bars run $3 to $6. Street food, banh mi for $1, pho for $1.60, grilled meats from $2, is available everywhere until the early hours. A full night in Saigon including drinks, food and club entry rarely exceeds $30 to $40 per person. And that is if you are generous. Here is the practical difference. In Siem Reap, cheap nightlife is concentrated in a small area. You save money, but you are not exploring. You are staying on the strip. In Saigon, cheap nightlife is everywhere. The city's affordability extends across neighborhoods, across types of venues, across the entire experience of moving through the city at night. The freedom to wander, to follow music down an alley, to sit at a street corner you had no intention of sitting at, to say yes to whatever the next moment offers, is made possible by the fact that every moment is affordable. When cost is not a barrier, exploration becomes natural. Siem Reap offers cheap drinks. Saigon offers freedom. OKL versus tourist, two different worlds. In both cities, there are two nightlives happening simultaneously, the tourist version and the local version. In Siem Reap, they barely overlap. Pub Street is for tourists. The surrounding area, the restaurants on the main road, the bars near the night market, all oriented toward international visitors. Cambodian locals who go out in Siem Reap go to different places, karaoke bars in residential neighborhoods, small family-run venues with Khmer music, places that do not appear on any tourist map and are not designed to. This separation is not hostile. It is simply how a small city organizes itself when tourism becomes the dominant economic activity. The tourist infrastructure takes over certain streets, and the local life retreats to others. Saigon mixes more naturally. On Boy Street, yes, the crowd is heavily tourist, but 2 blocks away, Vietnamese office workers stop for beer after work at the same street corner you are passing through. In the small clubs of District 3, local Vietnamese people in their 20s and 30s dance next to travelers who stumbled in from the street. The mixing is not complete. Vietnamese nightlife has its own spaces that foreigners rarely find, but the boundary is more permeable in Saigon than in Siem Reap. The city is large enough and chaotic enough that separation never fully takes hold. In Siem Reap, you experience nightlife as a tourist in a tourist space. In Saigon, you experience nightlife as a participant in something larger than the tourism industry. Safety and vibe, how it feels. Safety matters, especially at night in foreign cities. Siem Reap feels very safe within the tourist areas. Pub Street and its surroundings are well lit, well populated with other travelers, and monitored enough that serious crime is rare. The tuk-tuk drivers are persistent but not threatening. The vendors are pushy but not dangerous. Walk further from the tourist center into residential neighborhoods, down unlit streets. And the standard advice applies. Stay aware. Keep your phone in your pocket. Do not flash expensive items. The overall vibe in Siem Reap at night is relaxed, almost sleepy once you move away from Pub Street. The city does not generate threat. It generates low-level quiet that is either peaceful or slightly flat, depending on your expectations. Saigon feels different. Not dangerous, violent crime against tourists is rare, but less controlled. The motorbike traffic never stops, even at 2 in the morning, and it moves in ways that ignore every traffic law ever written. Bag snatching from motorbikes happens in District 1 and the Bui Vien area. Pickpocketing in crowded spaces is a real risk. The chaos is genuine, the energy is genuine, the sense that anything could happen, not in a threatening way, but in a city that has its own logic way, is present at all times. In Siem Reap, you relax completely. The city is small enough and contained enough that vigilance feels unnecessary. In Saigon, you stay aware, not anxious, and for some people, that constant engagement with the environment is exhausting. For others, it is exactly what makes the city magnetic. Both cities are safe enough with common sense, but the vibe shifts how you move through each one. Siem Reap lets you switch off. Saigon keeps you switched on. The reality, what nobody tells you. Let's be honest about what both cities hide beneath the neon. Siem Reap's nightlife exists because of Angkor Wat. Without the temples, there is no reason for the international tourist infrastructure that produces Pub Street, the cocktail bars, the clubs. The nightlife is a byproduct of a daytime attraction rather than something the city generated from its own culture and energy. This creates a specific feeling that is hard to name but easy to sense. The night feels slightly borrowed, like the city is hosting a party for people who are leaving in 2 days and everyone knows it. That is not a moral judgment. It is an honest description of how a tourism-dependent nightlife economy feels when you spend enough time in it. Saigon's nightlife exists because 9 million people live there, and some of them do not want to sleep. It has nothing to do with tourists. Tourists arrived later and found something already in motion. That origin is felt in every interaction. The city was not built for you. You are welcome in it, but it does not need you to function. The verdict. Which city is for you? So after walking through both cities, after drinking on both streets, after watching both sunrises, here is what I learned. Siem Reap nightlife is for people who want a complete experience. You spend the day at one of the greatest archaeological sites in the world. You come back, shower, and step out into a street that is designed to give you exactly what you want from a night out in Southeast Asia. Easy, accessible, affordable, safe. If you are visiting Cambodia for the first time and you have 2 or 3 nights in Siem Reap, Pub Street delivers. Do not overthink it. It works. Saigon nightlife is for people who want to disappear into a city. Not the tourist version of the city itself. The plastic stools, the street food at midnight, the small club where the music is too loud and the air conditioning is not quite keeping up, and nobody speaks your language, but somehow the conversation still happens. Saigon is for people who want to feel alive rather than comfortable. Neither city is better. They serve completely different needs. Siem Reap is a great night out. Saigon is a great city. If you want to be taken care of, choose Siem Reap. If you want to be absorbed, choose Saigon. Both will give you a night you will not forget, just for completely different reasons. Thanks for watching. Siem Reap or Saigon, which one is more your style? Drop your answer in the comments. And if you want my full breakdown of Saigon's cost of living, the neighborhoods worth knowing, and why I keep going back, that video is already on the channel. See you in the next one. Let me add one more layer. because there is something about Siem Reap at night that does not fit neatly into any comparison category, and it matters. Siem Reap has ghosts, not literally, but the temples are 20 minutes from Pub Street. Angkor Wat, Angkor Thom, Ta Prohm, with its trees growing through the stone walls, the largest religious complex ever built by human hands, now sitting in jungle darkness while tourists drink cocktails down the road. That proximity changes the texture of a night out in Siem Reap in ways that are difficult to articulate. You are drinking 50-cent beer on a neon-lit street. 2 kilometers away, stone faces stare at empty jungle in complete silence. The same faces they have been staring at for 800 years. Siem Reap's nightlife has weight that Pub Street does not advertise. The frivolity sits next to something ancient and enormous. Whether you register that consciously or not, it is there. I went to Angkor Wat for sunrise on my last morning in Siem Reap. I had been on Pub Street until 1 in the morning the night before. Standing in front of the reflection pool, as the light came up over the towers, I felt the distance between those two experiences as a kind of vertigo. The ancient and the disposable, the permanent and the temporary, sitting 2 kilometers apart. That combination, the magnificent ruins and the cheerful tourist strip, is what makes Siem Reap genuinely unique among Southeast Asian cities. It is not just a party town. It is a party town built next to one of the greatest human achievements in history, and that context, if you let it in, makes even a mediocre night on Pub Street feel like something more than it is. Saigon has no ruins. It has only the present tense, which is exactly why it feels so urgent. Siem Reap makes you aware of time, how long things last, how quickly they disappear. Saigon makes you forget time entirely. There is only now, the next street, the next beer, the next corner that might be the best thing you find all night. One city looks backward at what was built, the other looks forward at what is becoming. Both are worth your night. Just understand which one you need before you choose. One practical note before you go. If you are planning to do both cities, and you should, the order matters. Do Siem Reap first. See Angkor Wat? Spend your nights on Pub Street. Enjoy the ease and the accessibility and the affordability, then go to Saigon. Because if you go to Saigon first, if you experience that electric, overwhelming, completely uncontrollable city energy first, Pub Street will feel small afterward. But if you build up to Saigon from Siem Reap, the contrast lands perfectly. You appreciate what Siem Reap offers precisely because you have not yet been consumed by what Saigon is. Travel is about sequence as much as destination. Get the sequence right.